everybody can go ahead and share, sow it in their inbox, sow it in their life, because we're talking about tonight. I just can't wait to be king. I just can't wait to be king. And when I had this thought that came, it actually came from a movie of Lion King. Okay. And when we're talking about you just can't wait to be king, it refers to an eager to grow up. When Simba was singing the song, he said, I just can't wait to be king. He was so ready. Okay. He was so ready to grow up and to walk in his role and his posture as king. And so tonight we're talking about the posture, being ready and waiting to become kings, to become I'm sorry, there's a little glitch here. A relationship and a marriage. Okay, so tonight we have our amazing guest Thomas Castro's in the building. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. Okay, he's renowned for his own groundbreaking work in creating Shine Campus, which is a platform dedicated to fostering emotional and mental resilience. At the heart of Thomas's work is his marriage communication masterclass, and y'all need to check it out. Okay, you ain't my friend if you don't check it out. As a transformative program that equips couples with tools to strengthen their communication and relationships on a profound level. This unique approach goes beyond traditional therapy, encompassing emotional, mental, relational, and financial dimensions. Thomas's commitment to helping individuals move from survival to thriving has reshaped countless lives all over the globe, and he's offered a path to more robust and fulfilling features. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're so glad to have you here.
Yeah, doctor, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you and just be able to have a little bit of conversation about kings,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. And you guys that are coming in, go ahead and sow a share. Thomas is in the building. He's going to drop some amazing nuggets. And I'm going to talk a little bit about I just can't wait to be king. When we look at this context, okay, of relationships and the different scriptures that we draw from being king and being priest, we can draw some parallels at the theme. It revolves around the desire of power as a king and authority as king, not in dictatorship, not to control, okay, but to have power, to have independence as a man, as a king, as a husband, and to have the freedom to walk in masculinity as a husband, as a man, and as a king. Sometimes in relationships, it's common to find individuals who have aspirations and dreams of achieving certain milestones in their lives, a position of authority. But when we relate it to relationships, we can see that when you're waiting to become king as a man, it teaches us how to have humility. It teaches a man how to have patience. It teaches him how to trust in God's timing. And I know a lot of times we want to do it on our own. We want to get ahead of God. But when you're waiting, I just can't wait to be king. Simba had to wait on the right time for him to step in his role to become king. And one thing about God, he uses something so minute as a cartoon, as a movie, to show us in a broad perspective of what does it mean when you're waiting to be king. And I know it's going to help our ladies on tonight, and it's going to help our men on tonight as well. And when we relate that scripture to the thing that is one thing about it in relationships, when we recognize growth and when we understand what we're doing, we recognize even in men and our husbands and our men that the maturation and that maturity level has to be leveling up, and it takes time to get there. You can't rush maturation. You can't, put a time on it. I think as women and men, we're always going to be maturing. We're always going to be growing. We're always going to be learning something new at different levels. And when you rush into positions to be a man, when you rush into a position to be a husband, when you rush into a position to be a king without seeking proper guidance, wisdom, and seeking God, one thing about it, you'll lead to negative consequences trying to do it on your own and trying to rush it and do it on your own. So when you look at the context of this theme tonight, When you align aspirations, and when men align their aspirations as being king, as being husband, as being man, with the will of God for their life, when they prioritize the well-being of not only themselves, but their families and their spouses and their partners, then they can learn how to have a healthy relationship that is nurturing, that is fulfilling, that is growing, and that is also being cultivated, built on love, respect, and selfishness. Okay. We cannot be selfish in this season in any posture that we're in. And so tonight we're going to dive straight into the questions and straight into the dialogue here. For Thomas, the first thing I want to ask is, how can a king navigate the transition from dating to marriage without losing his individuality?
Right. So, that idea of individuality is kind of interesting because that's going to mean something different for a lot of people. But the one thing that happens when you start entering into a relationship is that the highest version of you, of your individual, your uniqueness, is actually in you being able to do the relationship well.
Wow.
So the hardest thing is people are looking at, when they think about individuality, a lot of times they're looking at the ideas of what I used to be.
Wow.
Right? Well, our job is really to submit to have our older self submit to our younger self. Our younger self is the one that's about to do this relationship, and how we're going to do it is what creates everything that we need to be a part of. And so it's really that individuality word is really something that kind of gets sticky for people. But I would say your best and highest version is in doing your relationship well. And if you can buy into that, you let go of anything to go get that.
Doing your relationship well. And you said bridging the gap between the older and the younger. That is crazy. Explain a little bit of what you're talking, because somebody may be thinking, what do you mean older with younger?
Yeah, so the older version of us is everything that's happened. I'm 42 right now. I'll be 43. So my 42-year-old self, that's the older version of me. The younger version of me is coming up. It's the one today. It's the one tomorrow. That's the younger version of me. And what's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to be able to allow my older self to yield to my younger self. Otherwise, I just keep getting the same things that I've always gotten, right? So if I say, hey, you know what, I want to keep my individual, well, that's my older self. I already been there. I know what it took me to, right? And if I want this new situation in the higher version of me, I'm going to have to have my older self submit to my younger self, to my new self.
I love it. And when you saying submit to the younger self, that means you don't have to give up on your identity. A lot of men, when they're that submission, that transferred older to younger, they're giving up who they are to try to get something else. And when you deal with the blueprint of who you are in the identity, I believe that you can embrace a beautiful, amazing journey as becoming team with yourself, with the older and the younger coming together, becoming a team. I think it takes both working together to become a beautiful team that flourishes in their relationships and their marriages. So that was amazing. So what are some effective ways a king can keep the romance alive? We have a lot of questions about how to keep the romance alive in a long-term relationship. How does a king do that?
Right. So our idea is, and it's going to be different for everybody what it exactly looks like, but use this as a backbone. I would tell everybody is that our responsibility really as kings and being able to sharpen ourselves is for us to think of being in our relationships as a service, right? So the reason that we won't keep romance alive is because we get busy and we start focusing on other things. But really, our partnership is all about being in service to our partner. Our partner was given to us as a gift. And if we can keep that in mind and be focused on that, that's going to help us to keep the things alive in our relationship that we need to be able to keep alive.
That is so good. And it goes straight with the scripture when he's talking about keeping it alive in Proverbs 3:3. It lets us know to let love and faithfulness never leave you. When you understand to not let it ever leave you, you'll learn how to have that romance you need in your relationships. And it says to bind them around your neck and write them on the tablet of your heart. Imagine when you have it bound around your neck and it's in your heart, you can't help but to pour out what's in you. Okay,
Right.
what's in you gonna come out. So if that part, if you're nurturing at Kings, and if you're cultivating that part, and you're shaping that heart and massaging it and giving it what it needs, then you're gonna have faithfulness that comes out. You're gonna have love that never leaves you, and a romance that never leaves you, that your partner can experience. And what more amazing space to be in than a space of fulfillment with your partner when it comes to that romance in their lives, and keeping that romance alive. It also requires intense appreciation, or just open communication about the desires and needs that you need to maintain that spark, because you have to have an open communication to know, am I supplying the need that my partner needs, or am I just doing something that I think they need? Okay, sometimes you can do what they think they need, and it's not fulfilling their need, it's just fulfilling that placeholder of what you think that they need, if that makes any sense to you. Okay, and it should be the core. And I'm telling you, because a lot of people, just like if you were to go out and say, oh, I really like this shirt, and I said, oh, let me go get him a hat and get him a wallet and get him some shoes, and I forgot about the shirt. Well, guess
got me
what?
the stuff, but not the shirt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm getting everything else that I think he needs. And in actuality, you told me what you need. And a lot of times we have to listen to our partners, listen to what they need, especially when you're in a king posture. And as women, that communication part to us, when we tell you something, and vice versa, when the kings tell you something, we expect to listen to understand and then know how to respond. But if we're listening to not understanding what our partner needs, then how do we know how to respond properly?
Yeah. And you know what, doctor, what makes that hard is a lot of times we come from different kinds of backgrounds, and where that seems challenging to each other to listen and do and listen and do. But if our perspective on the inside first, and that's why we can't go outside, and we got to go inside out. Because if the perspective is, I'm trying to serve my partner, we're into listening more than we are to trying to keep our forearms up for what somebody is, how they're demanding and how they want it a certain way. Like, if my sense on the inside is I want to serve you at the highest possible rate, then I'm going to go with whatever it is that if you said a shirt, we're getting the shirt, right? And so that's the challenge, though, is for us to be able to know, like, my previous scenarios in life can't be a predictor in my relationship right now. I got to really do this one different. And it's service that I'm looking at. That's the goal.
That's so good. You got to do this one different. And I'm telling you, it goes to my next question. Because when you said, hey, if you want a shirt, we get the shirt, to keep down confusion, to keep down arguments. So how can a king effectively resolve conflicts and disagreements in a healthy manner without using, the masculine energy and I want to fight you kind of thing? Because defense, like defending yourselves as a king, as a man, that's like their first nature response. Is you come up on me, I'm gonna do what I need to do, because that's part of your makeup. So how do you resolve conflicts and disagreements as a king?
Conflicts and situations in our relationship are best resolved in proactive ways. And so I got to do my inside work first to make sure that I'm not being hooked by the situations that are going on. So if my wife's coming at me sideways or whatever the situation is, I can't get hooked in those scenarios, because then I have a mode of operation that's responding to what I've already been through. So once I do my work, that's the proactive part. In the moment, it's really about me being able to switch over in my mind what this is meaning, being able to see my partner versus seeing what they're saying. Like, I talk about the tip of the iceberg. So a lot of times we can only see the tip of the iceberg, but there's a whole lot of things going on underneath. And so we don't focus on the real things that are going on, because we're so focused on how it was presented to us or what's going on in that person's actions. And so it's up to us for us to get better at the conflict scenarios and to resolve problems, is to understand and really see underneath what is being presented to us, and look for our opportunities of, this is going to be a common theme all tonight, look for opportunities of service in those situations. The only way we're able to do that in those scenarios is if we do our own work ahead of time, that doesn't that keeps us from being hooked in those moments, because it's easy to get hooked. You didn't say it right, you're talking to me the way you're not supposed to, whatever it is, it makes it easy. But our challenge is to be able to do our work first, and then come into this situation of disagreement really trying to see our partner and grow together. And that has to be those have to be the focuses for things to change.
I love that. I love that, to come into agreement as that focus, because I believe, as you were stating, in any relationship, no matter what relationship, how you handle it, doing that work first. I'm telling you, it matters to do that work first for each individual. That way, you know how to serve, as you say, as a service. Just like if you pulling up to your car and you getting your gas and your oil change, you expecting service, top-notch service. So when you pull up to this relationship, like, I'm pulling up and I'm expecting service, and the other partner, you're expecting to be serviced at the need you to be serviced at, not what you think I need. Because a lot of times you can pull up and get your oil change, and they're doing all other kind of stuff that you didn't even ask for, because they think, you know what I'm saying? They
I gotta go. That oil change.
They want you to get some tires rotated, or you need new tires, and you know what I'm saying? Is no, I pulled up for this service, and this is what I need at the moment. And when we understand this in relationships, it's going to diffuse a lot of conflict and arguments. I pulled up at this moment, and this is what I need at the moment. Yesterday, I can't worry about. Last week, I can't worry about. 2 weeks ago, the argument we had, or this, I call it the heated fellowship. Okay. The heated fellowship that we had, I can't do nothing about it. I'm pulling up today, and I need to be serviced in this area as king and as queen. Need to be serviced. What can we do at this very moment to come up with a solution? Not just keep conflicting, and it's not that one party is happy and this other party is not happy. I feel like both parties need to come together for a you're having, so that you can have healthy communication, so that you can have a fulfilling relationship and a marriage. So that was amazing. It was very, very good. So when we're talking about kings and maintaining that kingsmanship, how can a king maintain trust and transparency? Lord, let's talk about it in their relationship. Let's go.
So, you know what's interesting is I actually talk about trust different than most people. And so it's huge for us to be able to think about trust is ultimately for all of us. Trust is that I don't really trust myself to deal with the outcomes of situations that are hard for me. That's what trust really ends up being in relationships. So we each have our own, we have to have our own internal way of going about building up enough presence in our relationship that gives us confidence so that we don't have to worry about each other. Right. And that's the hardest thing, is a lot of times we haven't built up enough scenarios in our relationship that means security. Right. And so as we build that security concept, each person gets a better chance to feel and create, to feel like there could be trust and security inside their relationship. But I don't believe that it doesn't only come from what a person is doing, because sometimes a person could be doing the best that they can be doing and having the right focuses, and another person has come from a scenario that was difficult and they're hooked all over the place about different situations that could happen in their relationship. That's fine. We don't have to get in arguments about that. We need to understand where trust comes from. Trust comes from each individual. It doesn't come from certain circumstances. Now, are there violations in the relationship that will create mistrust? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what happens. But it's not where we'll solve the problem. Where we solve the problem is each individual working on their feelings of trust and believing in themselves that, look, no matter what's happening in my relationship, it's up to me to be the best version of myself possible and do the things that I have to do. I don't have to stare at trust as an issue.
I love it. What do you think the real reason why a lot of men have issues with trust and transparency, like telling the truth to their mates or their spouses?
Yeah, we fight over three things: power, control, that's one, significance, and then abandonment. Those are three things that we battle over. And for some men, again, if we haven't done our work, and that's part of being a king, is like we have to do our work so that we are constantly being able to interact. I mean, we would go to the gym and work on our bodies, so we need to do the same thing with our emotions. But a lot of times there's a powerless feeling to being subject to or to be accountable to, right? Depending on even how that's approached. So maybe somebody could help foster a different way of approaching it. But either way, like as a man, we have to just do a better job of understanding that being accountable to is not us being powerless, right? In fact, us being able to submit to those kinds of things, when I say that, is like, I'm trustworthy and I'm transparent, I'm going to submit to that, is not about our partner. It's about us being a higher version of ourselves possible.
Mm.
Okay?
That's so good. Being a higher version of yourself. And with the trust and transparency, y'all, it's vital for a healthy relationship. If you don't have it, you will not have a healthy relationship. Honesty, when you're vulnerable, it takes a lot for a king to be vulnerable. Let me tell you, it takes a whole lot for them to unpack. And when they unpack and share their scars or share their wounds or share their concerns or share their truth and it's violated, then they will compartmentalize that stuff and put it back and they won't open up for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what I'm going to say about that too, doctor, is like, what I do understand is there's a thing that happens between couples where men do kind of shell up if their partner is not creating a scenario that's conducive to doing that. But I'm going to tell, because we're talking to kings today, what I'm going to say is that's not your standard of being.
Come on.
Because your wife does the thing that's not helpful and is really difficult and makes it harder, your standard of being is somewhere else, right? And if we're talking about royalty, that's our standard of being. So I want to challenge all of us, including myself. I want to challenge all of us to say, look, I can't watch my partner and see what she does to decide who I'm going to be. I have a goal and a destiny, and that's up to me to become that, right? So the more that we can do that scenario, the better for us and our relationship, because who's going to go first? You did the wrong thing, so now I'm going to sit in the back seat, right? No, I got to keep getting back in the driver's seat. And so that's a really important thing about us as kings. We got to strive for higher. And you know, everybody, that's the goal. We can't watch what other people are doing.
Oh, that's so good, because a lot of times men do sit back and wait for to see what she's going to do and then say, okay, I'm going to show up based on what I get, instead of showing up because I'm king, I'm headship in the marriage, I'm the husband of the household. I'm still going to show up regardless if you show up or not.
Yeah, we don't want the kind of culture in our relationship that waits for somebody to do it better before we do it better. We want the kind of culture that says, I'm going to do better no matter what's happening on the other end. You can do 20 times not better and I'm still going to be one up. That's a place where we can actually compete, is to go first in our relationship. That's
I love it. I love it, y'all. He said culture. So somebody go out and create a t-shirt that said King Culture. Okay. I love that. KC, I love it. King Culture. And when we're looking at, and we're going to move to the next scenario here, Ephesians 4:15, it tells us, rather than speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into him who is in the head, into Christ. Okay, that should be the main focus head, and you're able to grow into him. Then you're able to grow into your relationships and into your marriages and into your families, and y'all can grow together. Does it make sense? It makes perfect sense to do that. And when we're looking at what are some ways that a king can prioritize quality time and a connection in a busy world, let's talk about it.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is I think that a lot of times there won't be a whole lot of like balance in what you're doing. There's seasons instead. And that's something that we don't think about as people. And even in our relationship, a lot of times we kind of think, well, I need it to happen this way. But that's not the season of our life right now. The season of our life is we're building a program, or we're doing, you know, we got at my house, we got a 2-year-old that needs tons of attention. Right. And so there's different kinds of seasons that we have. When, you know, me and my wife dating was a different time than me and my wife having a 2-year-old. And so if we can understand that, and then our jobs will require something else, if we could put that kind of scenario inside of our relationship where we have that mutual understanding, that's the first thing that I think really helps us to balance things out as much as possible. But balance isn't really a common scenario of life, not for people who are getting it. A lot of times we'll have a heavy dose of something going on, and then later on it'll be a heavy dose of something else. And that's fine. We just need to be able to braid that concept in, you know. there will be a time, I'm sure, in life when balance can be. But a lot of times, you know, when we're actually getting it in life, there's times where we have to just understand that it's heavier at some other ends, but it's all coming back. And so that's the other thing. Let's say that we're losing quality time this month.
Yeah.
But I'm only putting things in the bucket because next month I'm coming with the quality time, right? So
Ooh.
just understand it's not going nowhere. And I think that we need to be able to create that security as kings in our relationship, that even though our spouses might come to us and say like, hey, you know what, I haven't got enough time. It's not like, here you go again, right?
Yeah.
That's not the response. Instead, it's like, I get that and I miss you too, right? And I can't wait to be with you. I see myself
Yeah.
working just so I can get back to spending that same kind of time. So I miss you too, right? We'll be
Yeah.
there. We're going to get there. We can get through this together, right? So being able to have that kind of conversation and share that and know that, you know, that's a huge deal to be able to do that. And so I think there's less about balancing and less about kind of knowing, hey, this is how we do those things.
Yeah.
Instead, just knowing it's not going to always be where we want it to be. And how do we work with that part, right?
I love it. I love the fact for the reassurance, because from a king's perspective, a woman needs that. We need to know that you ain't forgot about us. We need to know that
You mean
we're
something.
not
All
too
right.
busy. You know, that reassurance and that safety and security. That is so important coming from a king. That means when you're prioritizing that quality time and that connection, you can set aside a dedicated time for each other. I don't care if it's 1 hour and you go get ice cream together, or if it's 30 minutes and hey, we picking up hot dog. I don't care what it is. You setting that time, you have a dedicated time. Your partner feels heard. Your partner feels like I'm secure, I'm safe. I know that is the hustle and bustle is real. Okay, it's real out in these streets. But whether it's a weekly date night or a weekend getaway, it doesn't matter. Or even disconnecting from technology, y'all. Cutting these cell phones off and just kings just ministering to your wives, just having that moment, and queens the same to your husbands, having that moment, because it's the small moments that we cannot get back, because time is currency. And I tell everybody, we're dying from the day we're born. Every single day we are wasting away and we're dying. And you making those small moments, that lasting memory, that can deepen your connection like none other in a relationship, especially coming from a king. It means so much to the family. It means so much to the wife. And not only that, it means so much to the community and the people that the king is serving, the people he's serving out there. It means a lot. And when we look at how kings are being still and in the mindsets and being still in their postures, and just like he says, sometimes you'll have that balance, sometimes it's off, but guess what, I'm coming back. It's coming back around, and I'm gonna make up. I'm gonna redeem the time that we thought we lost last month. I'm gonna redeem the time this month and make it worth your while. So how can a king support his partner or spouse's personal growth and goals? Because we're growing and we're glowing as women, and it's like, you know, some people are missing each other in relationships because they don't have that support of that personal growth and the goals that the partner is trying to do.
Yeah. So, you know, I think it might be easy for somebody to cheerlead, like, hey, you're doing a good job. Hey, I'm proud of you. And those are a little bit easier. It's the vibe that you have constantly that really matters in those scenarios when you're trying to support your queen to do the things that she wants to do. And that vibe is often missing, right? And so the vibe that says, I'm doing things that are behind the scene that actually help you to feel good. I don't have time to do arguments, and I don't have time to have disagreements. I just want to serve at the highest level. And so that has to be the focus in those moments, especially when we see our significant other trying to really get it. It's those nuances of the relationship that matter. If she has to spend time arguing with me or convincing me about a thing, she has to take a moment away from the thing that she's building, right?
Wow.
And then also probably reset and get back into the right kind of vibe and mood just to do the thing. And so my job is to create the vibe around the house that will support and allow her to grow. It's not just a commentary on, you're doing a good job, I believe in you, I'm proud of you. It's really a vibe that we need to be able to enact in our relationships and in our home as much as possible.
I love that. And you said something so powerful. And it does happen with us women when we have to spend time, having a heated fellowship. It takes us out of this zone for some reason. It's so hard to get back in it. It's so hard to just get the pace back because we're having to explain this, explain that. And I feel like even in relationships, so many people are there's intimidation and there's competition within relationships, like competing one person's goals and this person's purpose. I feel like the both should complement each other, the purposes and the goals for where we are now and where we are going. Okay. When we focus on that, we make that our vision, our tunnel vision. We can tune out the negativity and we can be the sounding boards for the dreams and ideas and visions that we have together and we have individually, because we are two separate people. When we come together, we still cannot lose our individuality and being authentic in who we are when we come together in relationships and marriages. So one thing about when I'm looking at kings is communication. There's a lot of conversation about how men communicate. So how can a king communicate, overcome those communication barriers if they don't know how to communicate, if they're struggling, if they've never been taught how to communicate? Because tradition tells us as kids to be quiet and do what I tell you to do, and they don't give us a voice. And so now I'm this king, and I'm in my house, and I'm governing things, and I actually have a voice, but I don't know how to communicate. So how can a king overcome communication barriers and improve understanding in his relationship or marriage?
Yeah. So you can kind of think of the David and Goliath story for this idea, because part of the reason that we don't do communication well is not that we don't know how to talk. It's the confidence, like you described, that we're lacking in being able to say something and then not feeling good about the returns that we get from that scenario. David wasn't aware of anything more than he was aware of God, right? So that awareness and that idea of, look, I have something inside of me that really needs to be lit up. Like it was put inside of me on purpose to be lit up. And so just because I'm herding sheep today, like I'll understand later that that's valuable for me to be able to lead others. But what I need to understand right now is like, there's a scent inside of me that I really need to be able to let off. And I think that's the important piece, is that we need to be more aware and conscious of who we are, instead of us trying to figure out like, how's my partner going to respond, or I'm not going to win that game, or whatever it is, whatever's keeping me from talking. I need to not be as aware of that scenario more than I'm aware of, look, I have to do the thing that means me shine as bright as I possibly can in this relationship. And so that's having conversations even when it's scary. And it takes a lot of practice. These are not things that are done because we're choosing them. A lot of times we get these blueprints from how we were raised, from the experiences in previous relationships, from a lot of sneaky different places. And so we're already amazing. What we're trying to do is uncover the amazing, because everybody was spent a lot of time covering the amazing up because they were hurting. So they were passing their hurt a lot of time to us, and it was covering up our shine. Our job is to be able to say, look, I got to start uncovering some of the stuff that everybody's put on top of me and figure out where I'm at. And part of that is being able to have a conversation that moves people, right? And in the first person you got to be able to move is your significant other. And so that's really the key, is not being as aware of the hardship that may follow when you have the conversation as you are the responsibility that you've been given to have the conversation.
Ooh, I hope y'all wrote down all of that, because that was just powerful. And I'm sitting here looking at the scripture that goes with what you just said, and it makes so much sense in Colossians 4:6. It says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt. Because I don't like stuff without some season in it. Okay. So that, right, it's got to have some season so that you may know how you ought to answer each other. Man, if we get that, just to let our speech be gracious, make sure that it's seasoned with salt when we're speaking and having that communication with each other, so that we can know how we ought to answer and talk to that person. I think it would change the trajectory of divorces, of broken relationships, of situationships, of entanglements, if we learn to effectively communicate and understand each other and active listening, like practice active listening. Some people don't even know what active listening. They heard you, but did they listen to you? Okay. So that active listening, having that, as he talked about, you when you asking things in situations and relationships, make sure you get clarity. You're asking those clarifying questions that you need clarity to. Do not make assumptions. That's the first thing that will kill your relationship and your marriage, is assuming. Okay, if you're not you don't have clarity, you don't know how to choose your words wisely, you don't know how to be kind, you don't know how to be respectful, you don't know how to nurture a conversation and be conversational and not transactional, sounding like we just pressed operator and you get I don't like the transactional, that's why I need to talk to somebody. I'm gonna press 1000 so I can get to a person. Because this automated is not where it's at. Right. You're making me upset. And you know how they say they don't understand you, or can you repeat that? Or it's something they say to aggravate you. Is failing to understand you and not communicate in a communicative posture, but they're very transactional and not even having empathy. Like putting yourself, a lot of relationships and marriages are missing empathy, putting yourselves in that person's shoes. How would you feel if that was you? Okay. How would you feel? So when we learn to empathize, we can overcome those barriers and we can deepen our understanding in our relationships and marriages, and also understanding our kings and as well as our queens. So we're gonna talk about financial challenges, because this seemed to be a big old problem in the dating and relationship and marriages. Is how can a king navigate financial challenges and maintain financial harmony in his relationship and marriage? This is a big one. This is a real big.
Yeah. So we'll start from the back end of that. The harmony part happens because you're having a lot of conversations about the financial scenarios that are going on for you. And probably you're starting out with the blueprints that each one of you has about money. And then you're growing that scenario to where we're at now and what needs to happen with that, even if it goes into whether we're going to work or building businesses or whatever that situation is. So it's tons of conversations to breed the harmony that we're talking about. If you're struggling financially, though, the first thing that you have to do is be able to admit that you're struggling financially. And sometimes we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to admit, because we're used to doing the struggle for so long that we don't even call it a struggle anymore. This is just like how we do money, right? And so first you got to admit that, and then you have to actually find somebody that you can partner up with that can help you to do it differently. When you find that person, you need to be able to say, look, I need to do whatever you tell me to do, but you got to know that their money is right. Right. And if you know that their money is right, then you could do what they tell you to do. When you're done doing that, you got to kind of go dig deep and say, like, what are the movements that I need to make in my life that's going to allow me to get to a different place? Because all we're doing, and whenever we're starting from the beginning that says, okay, I got a problem, right? All we're doing is we're redoing our blueprints. And that's the key, because what keeps us stuck in our money habits is that we have an old blueprint. That's why we're going to a new person. And then we start doing the searching and we say, okay, what are the habits that I need to be able to have and put in my life? And we stick with that person. In fact, we need to create a system around being able to talk to that person, have the different kinds of money income scenarios coming in our life, managing those scenarios. We need to create all those systems inside of our lives. The more that we put that on repeat, that scenario that I just talked about there, the more you're going to start getting out of your money scenarios as an individual and as a king. But then two, you can bring your wife into that scenario, your queen into that scenario, and that helps you guys to build that situation together. If you had blueprints from old, you can create new blueprints now that include each other, and it can look a lot different. The key is being able to communicate and solidify a different way of being, though. We can't be shy about the hardship that we have. We need to be able to be open about that and know that it's okay not to have it, because we're going to get it if we're willing to say that it's okay that we don't have it.
I love it. It's okay to say that we don't have it. So from your expertise, should this conversation happen during the courting stage, or should you wait till you're married to talk about finances? I mean, because a lot of people don't talk about the financial part until they're married, and then all this stuff comes out.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think a lot of couples that I see, they probably didn't spend a lot of time talking about it at first. Um, but I don't think that's a tragedy. We'll deal with it whenever it gets here. You know, if that's how it happened. Now if we could be proactive, I would love to have that conversation initially so we can start getting on that path before we get married, right?
Mhm.
The hardest thing is if you're not talking about it early, you probably have some kind of blueprints in there that make it hard for you for whatever reason. So you know there's kind of going to be a struggle, right? So if you're not talking about it in the courting stages and you're not money is not a thing and you can see patterns already, you know, my business coach says like in one paragraph I could tell you if somebody has a money problem or not, right? And so a lot of times you could see those traits happening, right? Like
Yeah.
so I think that that's important is for us to understand like, yeah, there's going to be some deficit somewhere, you know. And so when are we going to start dealing with it? The best time is before it's later. Yeah, it's right now.
God, I so agree. And I'm just even in my coaching, I strongly advise financial boot camp for
Mhm.
couples. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, going through that process, taking those courses, talking about money, talking about the challenges, talking about the stressors. What stresses are you having? How to properly plan? Because I've seen a lot of people get together in marriages, and the king really try to sit down and budget, and it's like the woman's like she never had that before, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody want to talk about money and talk about budgeting because it's like one of the keys to divorces these days is money issues and money problems. And people not just not having good healthy communication about it. Having patience when it comes to money. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't have patience when it comes to money. So to understand how kings navigate that challenge is being able to just sit down and talk about it, and just finding that balance to be open and
Yeah.
finding it's time to be open in the space. If you ain't got the time or the space, you make the time or the space so that it's not difficult. Because a lot of times I know men that sometimes lose their jobs or something happens, they feel so bad because they can't provide for their families. And you know, the woman is providing and she's working and they don't want to stay home with the child, they're not important because you come in to communicate with teamwork, knowing that we're going to make this thing work together. I got you just as well as you got me. And I
Yeah.
feel like when you have that response in that relationship, you'll be able to have financial stability as a king to navigate that. Also, you'll be able to have peace as a king because it's
Yeah.
hard out here for a king to have peace about finances.
Yeah.
It's very, very
There's two
go
things,
ahead.
doctor, that I think are useful to remember. Is one is we're not supposed to be anxious about what's tomorrow, right? And
Yeah.
so and this is a money thing, but then there's the other part of that, which means that also says that we need to be planning, right? And so that's a good that honestly, isn't that a great financial blueprint? Don't be worried
Yeah.
about what's going to happen tomorrow, but you need to
Woo!
be planning, right? So I think that
My goodness.
if you can just put those two things on your today, this is how I'm going to focus on money scenario, then you're going to get to a much better place, you know, and you won't be nervous and reactive and worried about what might happen, but at the same time you're in a place where you're in control of what's going on.
I love it. Being in that place to be in control of what's going on. Not
Mhm.
rushing, but planning. Okay. Not rushing and worrying about it, but definitely having a plan in place. And when we look at how kings navigate through things, how can, and I know it's hard for some people, they maintain a strong emotional connection during the time of stress or hardship to be connected to their partner.
Yeah, you know what makes that happen is that we can't necessarily, when we are doing a fight about something, we can't necessarily be emotionally connected to that. Can you imagine?
Mhm.
Like you're trying to fight and save yourself and you're emotionally connected to that scenario, right? And so understand the reason and the dynamic that goes on. So what creates how we feel, there's an order of operations that I use. What creates how we feel is the way that we think and focus on things,
Mhm.
right? So that's really important because in order for us to make an emotional connection in any moment, is sometimes we got to get our emotions and thoughts on balance before we can actually move on a scenario. And if we can go back to our goal that we talked about serving each other, if that is our goal and we can keep that focus in mind more than we do the hardship or whatever battle it is that we're doing, if we can keep the idea of, look, my job is to be able to serve, my quest for me, part of my plan, my makeup is to be able to serve. How do I serve? That can help keep us in touch with where we need to be emotionally and be able to connect in moments of challenge.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And facing that challenge and staying, you said something earlier about they don't want to get the help, or some of them want to get the help, but they're afraid to reach out because they're afraid of rejection or abandonment, being left to just, because they put so much pressure on kings to have it all. You need to just have it all, you know. And sometimes it's just like he needs a moment to just breathe and figure it out.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I think we need to really understand, who's the they that puts the pressure and where is that scenario coming from? Because it's really not a God pressure. It's not a God pressure for us to be a certain kind of way other than serving our partner, other than ruling over our thing that we've been assigned to. So if we're aware of that pressure and where it's coming from, that in itself is an issue. I need to change my awareness like that. This is our strength. I need to change my awareness from being aware of all that pressure that's being created for me to be a man, right? To being more aware of what my assignment is.
Wow. Yeah.
See, and so if I could be more aware of what my assignment is, that's a game changer, because now I don't have to worry about how everybody's perceiving me or what I might be or what I might not be. I'm on assignment. Like, I'm on that. That's who I am. That's what I'm doing, right? And my assignment actually happens, and this is for all of us, happens to be royalty. It's king and queen to rule over your thing, right? And so if that's my assignment, that's what I am. That's already defined. Why am I running from it, right? So I have to be able to get to a place where I can say, look, I'm not really worried about where that pressure is coming from and who's doing all of those things that say something about who I might be. It's already been defined who I am.
Wow.
Right? I'm supposed to create, connect, contribute. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's defined already, right? Yeah. There's no other thing for me to have to worry about. And so a lot of the issues that we create that are happening, we create for ourselves by having our focus and awareness in the wrong spaces. If we can change our awareness and focus to a different space, man, it's a game changer. It's a life changer. People around you might not even recognize you, and that might get scary, but they'll be all right. You'll be all right.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Knowing your assignment and keeping that in vision. She's like, drown out the noise. It doesn't matter where that's coming from. My focus is my assignment and what I'm called to do. And I know that I'm called to do. And we had a question come in the inbox. When it comes to being a king in relationship and being a husband in relationship, what's the priorities of a king in a relationship? And what's the priorities in a king and being a husband? As a husband in the household.
Yeah, I wouldn't separate the two out. You know what I would, I wouldn't separate the two out. They all mean service scenarios, and one you might be serving. So I think if we were going to separate it out, it's where I'm serving. So the husband gives you your specific definition of being able to do your service. In a husband area, like at that point in time, you are serving your wife to the highest possible ability, right? And so, but you never take your crown off. You never take your crown off. And so that your assignment is the gift that you've been given, all the people who come to you, even if it's your wife, right? That's your first gift. It's your children. It's the people who watch you. It's the people who are ask you to work for them. Like, it's all those people. Those are all your gifts to serve.
Yeah.
Right. That's been given to you as an opportunity. And so the key is that as a husband, what's going to happen is that's where you actually head towards as far as your same kind of service, but it doesn't change anything. It's no different. And so keep your crown on all the time. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about husband or at work. It just gives you your list of things, but it's all service.
Oh my goodness, it's all service, because so many people, they separate the two a lot. Like, when you're in relationship, you do this thing as a man. Then now we get into marriage. Okay, now you gotta start doing this in, in a marriage. And they are separating the two. And I felt like that's where the disconnect is at.
Yep.
Because I feel like he should be doing, a king should be able to be a king, whether I'm in a relationship or I'm in a marriage. I still need to be a king. I
Right.
have a right to be a king. I have a right to show up. I have a right to serve in the areas that I'm serving at. That
Yeah.
was so good. Go
How
ahead.
you do anything is how you do everything. And so if you simplify that scenario, instead of having 25, why not just do 5 that you're able to say, like, I do these things,
Ooh,
right? So
ooh,
so it's really important for us in our life. And that's one of the things that helps us to do away with stressors and hardships, is because I don't have 25 things I do. I have 5 things that I do. But I do those in all the areas. And that's really important, is to be able to really try to simplify, because if we're stressing and trying to do 5 different things in this scenario, 5 different things in that scenario,
ooh.
you're going to be stretched too thin. Nobody has you. Nobody
That's so
has you.
good.
Okay.
That's so good. Say that one. You said pick 5 things and do this. Just explain that, because you do have a lot of people that try to do 25, 30, 40 different things. And like you
Yeah.
said, you won't be there for nobody to serve nobody.
Yeah. So I coach basketball,
Yeah.
and then I'm married, and then I'm a father, right? And then I do my coaching and marriage counseling things too, right? I do all those things. But in my mind, I have one thing that I say that I do, and that's just to serve people.
Okay.
Right. And that translates so well for me, because I'm not thinking like, oh, I gotta go to work. Oh, I'm gotta go coach basketball. My job when I'm coaching is to serve the athletes that I'm coaching. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. Same thing when I come home and my wife is here. Like I think the same kind of thing. Like, I gotta serve my wife.
Yeah.
You imagine if I thought, oh, now I gotta be a husband. Oh, now I gotta be a coach. And sometimes we do say the words like, I wear different hats. Stop wearing different hats, put your crown on, right? To me, the challenge is to be able to
Yeah.
just serve one kind of way all the time. And of course, there's going to be nuances to everything, but
Yeah.
the important part is that you have this simplified version of doing that inside of your mind, and it's going to make it a lot easier.
That's so good. And you mentioned about children. How can a king keep his relationship strong and connected with his partner when they have children? And because the tension, it's a lot with kids. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, sometimes the kid come before the king. So how do you look at that, and what do we need to know when it comes to that?
Yeah, I think for us as kings, we got to be really patient about that,
Ooh,
and admire. And so admiration is something that helps us. It's something that really helps us to change our experiences with our partners. And so if we can constantly, like, I admire what my wife does as a mommy and how much my child loves his mommy. Like, I admire that scenario, right? And that helps me to stay not only in love with my wife, but also stay wanting my wife. And so it's really important for us to be able to admire each other as parents as we do those things, instead of be jealous of those things, or somehow be focused on the things we're not getting because of it, right?
I love it.
It's just another opportunity for service. And so if we're watching our partners do service, we should be excited about that, or that's a good
Yes.
opportunity for us to be excited about it.
Yes, I love it. Y'all, we have unpacked so much tonight when it comes to kings, y'all, and balancing what he talked about parenthood and maintain that strong relationship. If you have to prioritize date nights without the kids, sometimes you have to have date nights with the kids. It's okay, because the kids love mommy and daddy just as much as mom and daddy love each other, right? But
They're
when
not
we
2
talk,
forever or 5 forever, right? Like, whatever
yeah,
age they are, they got to go on the date. They're not going to be that age forever,
yeah,
right? So at some point in time, they won't even want to be around you. So yeah, do
yeah,
the date with them every once in a while. Do it
yeah.
by yourself every once in a while. Try to mix it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I strongly believe in our children having an example in relationships and marriages of what true kingdomship is, and what it is to be a man, what it is to have that, security, and have that dad, and have that availability, someone who's functioning and showing up on the
Mhm.
scene and in action. Okay. And these children, they watch everything that we do. Everybody, like sponges, they're soaking it up, and they looking at how daddy treats mommy and how mommy treats dad, and everybody's looking out at how you're treating each other. And like he
Mhm.
said, and I love that, and I'm gonna probably use that for myself, as I'm just here to serve. Okay, I'm just here to serve because I wear a lot of hats, and it's hard when you wear all these hats and you're trying to be here for everybody. It makes me feel like I have 50 million jobs. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and apply that to myself. I want you guys to apply it. Kings, you're watching. Know that you're worthy. Know that you're necessary. Know that you're enough. He's giving you nuggets on how to navigate in relationships, emotions, vulnerability, how to unpack, how to communicate. All the questions that I've been hearing in some of these rooms, we have given you answers. We haven't given you structure tonight. We have given you strategies. We haven't given you scripture. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to Thomas. Thomas, how can people find you on your social media platforms?
Yeah, real quick, doctor, before I give him that is, as we go to try to apply service, something that I want everybody to know is service does not equal pleasing. Now, maybe an outcome of service is pleasing, but I might give you something that doesn't feel good to you, but it's super useful to you, right? Now, ultimately, service needs to be something that is useful to somebody. That part is true. But it doesn't necessarily need to be pleasing to somebody. And that, so if we go try to please people, because we initially started with the word service, we're going to get things mixed up. So what we need to understand is it's service. It's not necessarily pleasing. Okay. So I want everybody to be able to have that part of
I love that
service. Okay. So here's where everybody can find me. I mean, honestly, the best way to find me and get a hold of me and see more about me is going to theshinecampus.com. If you go there, you'll a quick little navigation will take you to everywhere you need to be. And so I would just say, do that. Right now we're running a marriage communication masterclass. It lasts 3 days. It's an hour each day where you end up with some homework. And everybody's welcome to jump on over and jump in that. It's, it will serve you at a high level.
I love it. The system keeps going out here because it's getting ready to be bad weather. So is there anything that we missed that you want to cover, that you want to, some last moment motivational moments, expressions that you want to tell our kings, somebody that may be watching and may be feeling like, I'm at my wit's end, I need help. He's giving you the nuggets. He's giving you the website to go to plug in and what you need. Anything that we missed tonight? Yeah.
So what I will say, you guys, is as much as we talk about it fast and quick here, and you can go back and rewind the tape, as much as we give it to you really quick, it's not so easy. And it takes a daily practice. It takes an introduction of different kinds of resources to really be able to do that. So it doesn't happen easily, but focus on being more of a king that serves people and makes and pleases God. A focus on those two things will take you to places that you haven't been before. But it has to be a daily focus, and then do the battles that follow that. As you do that, you'll see yourself start to change inside your heart, and that leads to different kinds of relationships and interactions. And ultimately, not that you have the life that you want, but you have a fulfilled life, and the life that says, man, this is worth living for. This is what it's all about. So take your gifts that are given to you, all the people around you, and start trying to serve those gifts as much as possible. I think everybody will be fine with a little bit of that information, and go love on your wives and your kingdom.
I love that. I love that. Take what you have and use it. And fulfillment, to me, is the real success in a relationship. It's not about the money. It's not about the houses. It's not about the cars. It's not about the accolades. It's that fulfillment and walking in who God created for you to be as kings. He's called you to a great work. He's called you to a great level of authority, of power. Not only that, but of ruling in your household and governing so that you're able to raise your children right and work in the community and be able to serve other people that is looking. I'm calling him Proverbs 31 men. He's well known in the community. Okay. They love him. And not only that, but he's a good service, and he's out there and he's ready to be awakened. Some kings are ready to just be awakened up and rise up. And brother, I got you. I'm sorry. You need to Find somebody that you can connect to out there, okay? Find you another king. Thomas is here. If you need help, there's no reason why you cannot get the help that you need and the wisdom and the knowledge that you need, and you have it right here. Do not feel alone, okay? Do not feel alone. Do not feel abandoned, and do not feel reject. Say thank you to all of my church family that is here. Elijah's Mantle Apostolic Fellowship under the leader of Dr. Antonio Schroeder is in the building. We have the amazing Lens of Faith Speaks is in the building. We have the amazing missionary Lynn and her husband out of Texas. Their ministry is in the building. We have the amazing Dietrich Lawson Sr. is in the building. Tawana's in the building. We have so many people that are here. Y'all so a share. And I know you guys are going to come back and watch the replays. Share this with your brothers, your uncles, your cousins, whoever, your sons, whoever may need it. To awaken and ignite the fire that is on inside of our kings, because we need our kings. I don't care what no independent woman got to say about that. We need, I know I do. I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but we need our kings, okay? And we are here to support you guys. We are here to stand up and just be what you need us to be as wives, as your suitable helper, as your partner. We have to get this thing together, y'all, because it's just like a revolving door. I feel like the cycle keeps repeating, but when is the cycle going to stop and we actually walk in this thing and get it right, okay?
Right.
And be grown people and be accountable. We have to hold each other accountability, because if we don't do it, we cannot expect our beta generation that's coming up to even have a positive example of what it is to have a great kingdom relationship in the eyes of God. Also, welcome, Pastor Bailey just got here. Thank you so much, Pastor Bailey. You got to go back and catch the replay, Pastor Bailey, okay? To have that amazing light. I'm telling you, we appreciate you, Thomas. We appreciate your measure. We appreciate everything you're doing to serve the community, to serve relationships, marriages, and just to make everybody know that they're important, okay? Because a lot of people don't feel important, and a lot of our kings don't feel important, and we got to lift them up, okay? We got to lift them up. So this has been an amazing session tonight on Life is Wow, partnered by Kingdom Purpose Talk. Until next time, you guys have an amazing night, and God bless.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.